What do you get when you mix Netflix Chef's Table with a horror comedy? One of the best movies of the year. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nightmare Collective. I'm Chris. Thanks for stopping by and watching my review for The Menu. Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief synopsis about what this movie is about before we kind of get into what I like about it. So we've got Nicholas Hoult playing Tyler. We've got Anya Taylor-Joy playing Margot. We've got the great Ralph Fiennes playing Julian Slavic, who is our world-renowned chef. And then we've got John Leguizamo playing a movie actor. We don't get his name. He's just a once great movie actor who's kind of fallen and is still trying to stay relevant. So that's your cast of characters. We do have other group of characters, and we'll get into them in a minute. But they're all going on this experience to Hawthorne Island. And so you have your chef, played by Ralph Fiennes, who is playing Julian Slavic. He's this great chef who does like crazy shit with food. And so that's what they're going to experience. So Nicholas Hoult's character, Tyler, is bringing Margot to this. And you find out that she's different because she really was not supposed to be here. There was supposed to be another woman here, and there was a change of plans. She basically broke up with him, and so he brought Margot. And that does play into the story overall, which I don't want to give away. This is non-spoiler, but it does play into this very well, and that's kind of where her character shines, is that she's really not supposed to be there, and she's more related to kind of these chefs than the people that she is surrounded by. So the theme of this movie is obsession. Everybody's obsessed with something. Julian is obsessed with making the perfect meal. You have a guy and his wife that's an older couple that we didn't mention earlier, but they are obsessed with just coming to this. They've been here 11 times and basically they're just eating, which Julian says they should not eat. They should savor and they should enjoy, but they're just eating this food because they have a ton of money and they basically have nothing else to do, so they can keep getting into this exclusive experience. Nicholas Hoult is obsessed with this chef, Julian. He just wants to be like him. He's obsessed with food. And then you've got your food critic, and she is just obsessed with her ego and, you know, shutting restaurants down and like giving people critiques. John Leguizamo, like I said, once a world-renowned actor, is now failing, and so he's obsessed with being relevant again. And then our last group of people is these four guys who work for the owner, and they're basically just obsessed with making money. So that is our theme across this entire movie, is this obsession with something. Everybody's got their own obsession, and this is very well conveyed across this movie. And you slowly pick up that throughout the movie, and I really didn't get that until like the very end, and I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, you get that Julian is obsessed with like making the perfect meal because he keeps saying it, you know, between like every course that he's got, he's just like clapping and then explaining what these things are out. And a lot of it is just like this highbrow metaphorical shit that they all get, and they're like, oh yes, this is about that. I'm eating the ocean, you know? I will say, all the food in this is like immaculately done. It's basically like mashing up a horror comedy with like Netflix's Chef's Table. That's basically this amalgamation of what you get in this movie, and it's all really well done. I mean, this is a smaller cast. We're in one central location, which if you've watched any of my videos for a long period of time, you know that's kind of my favorite. I like smaller, you know, not lower budget necessarily, but smaller cast, smaller areas, refinedness, and you kind of can have a smaller, intimate story than something that's like big and vast, you know, like a Halloween or something like that. This is more intimate than those movies are. So, you know, we're going through this, and they're going through these courses, and, you know, as Tyler says in the very beginning, he like breaks his first thing, and he's like, you know, it's about the experience. You won't know what the menu is about until the very end, and they definitely find out what the menu's about at the very end. So I do like this movie overall. Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies of the year, and I did not expect it to be as funny as it is. This was produced by Adam McKay and Will Ferrell, which I didn't know until the very end when the credits came on, but you do see that kind of shine through. It is very well written, and it's funny throughout. It is very dry as far as the humor goes, very on the nose, which for me, that works. That may not work for everybody, but I did like the meshing of the horror and the comedy in this, even though it is very subtle, and the horror is definitely the forefront of the movie. The comedy does have this underpinning underneath it that I do like, that kind of differentiates it from your stock horror movie that this could have been. So overall, like I said, I really like this movie. It's one of my favorites of the year, and I think you can go into it knowing nothing, that's probably the best thing. I only saw one trailer, but I really didn't know kind of really what it was about. All I knew was that these people were going out to this exclusive island to experience the menu by this like world-renowned chef. That's kind of all I know, and if that's all you know, that's great, because I think this experience, just like these people experienced the menu in the movie, I think you should just experience this. And the theater that I was in was not packed. I mean, there's probably 10 or 12 people in there, but they all left satisfied, just like I did, you know? So there was a lot of metaphors you could use in this movie, even explaining this movie, you know, like, hey, I went, I experienced this, I was satisfied at the end, and I think everybody that went was also satisfied. We were all talking about it afterward. I met with a guy and his mom. They were kind of talking about the movie as well, and that like her husband was really into food, and so she thought he would enjoy this. And I think that's kind of the thing. If you like those like Netflix style shows that are like all about food and stuff like that, this is just wrapped in a horror comedy wrapper, and I think that you will enjoy this if you like that style of stuff, because you do get this like immaculate looking food, and the plating is good, and it still has that like, you know, he's basically kind of like a Gordon Ramsay like foil. And so I think if you like all that stuff and you like horror and you like comedy, I think you're gonna like this movie because it's all just melded into one. And the director is a guy who's done Succession, and he's done a bunch of Game of Thrones and Shameless, and so I don't know if he's done many movies. This may be his first movie, and because I was digging through it, it's just a lot of TV. So for his first movie, you can tell that it's like smaller, but it's really well directed. You can tell he's worked with a budget before, which makes sense, him directing Game of Thrones. So I do really like the direction here. I think the music is really good, and it's subtle, and it like kind of conveys the points when they need to be conveyed throughout this. And I like the style of this movie a lot too, because like mixed between these courses, you kind of get these flashes, and it kind of just tells you what the meals are. And even there is some comedy in that, which is where I think it's very subtle. You know, something will happen or something will change, and instead of getting that menu, you'll get something else that kind of plays into what's going on in the movie. And I think all that really works. I think the cast is great. I think, you know, all the acting is top notch. So I can't praise this movie enough. I definitely think you should go out and see it. If you're going to go see this movie, or if you already saw it, let me know down in the comments below. And that's pretty much all I got. So thanks for stopping by and watching my review. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Until next time, if you like what I do, consider becoming a part of the collective. And don't forget, some doors should never be open.